Yeah, right, it's going. So,
Okay.
so this today is basically our introduction, and it's also about finding out what we can do in these groups, you know, because under the name of Divine Life Alchemy, which its intention is to be to bring something that we're not getting, a need that we're not getting met, which part of it is about community in the modern world and how we don't, you know, the society's not really giving us the clear space to be able to be authentic and real. And, you know, we don't have to be saying really deeply personal stuff, but it's a place to be able to share. And today we're recording, so that's cool. So that's fine. Anything else I want to say? I think that's it really. So let's just have a little breathe for a minute. Let's have a little bit of breathe and come into our breath and into our body. Just spend a couple of moments to stop, because this is one of those needs that we are really deeply needing as humanity right now. Permission to stop, not to be doing something. Just want to say thank you for this shared space. For the depth of what we have. We're so lucky when there's so much people struggling on it, and we're in a safe country, and we are safe and we can ground in. I just said that prayer for this space, that we're protected and that our soul self or our spirit team or whoever we feel is supportive may surround us. Ooh, ooh.
Through the grace of God, so be it.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to do before we start, right? I'm just gonna try and play this bowl for a minute and just sort of introduce the space with a little bit of sound, and then we can just go into the flow as to what we feel we'd like. I've got a feeling we should go into the discussion a little bit after this. So if you're all right with that, guys, we'll just sit with this for a couple of minutes.
My sound's going a little bit in and out, so if it feels like the signal's struggling, I'm going to take the video off, if that's all right. Just signal better. All right, so if I disappear, that's what's happened.
Signal's good, Katie. You're clear as a bell.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's good. It is.
You're fracturing a little bit at times, but I'm still managing to get hold of what you're saying at the moment. So
what, me?
We'll see how we go. Both of you, yeah.
Okay. No worries. Right. Here we go then. So. Ooh.
You done?
yeah, and what I just want to suggest a little chat about, let's see how you feel, Mike, because I feel like you're ready to go, about sound and what that means to us, and using it for healing, basically. So yeah. Yeah, guys. So I know it's as much the silence as the sound, and me. I won't use being a Gemini as an excuse. I'm kind of trying to there, but having a busy mind.
You are a Gemini, so you are an excuse.
That it's like it's absolutely beneficial to have an excuse to stop the wavering mind, as Mike would say. And I think that, to play the crystal bowl like this, and to not even have chords, just have that very simple, and I think you can relate with this, Katie, as well, this clarity when life can be so jumbled and we need that focus. And that is what we get when we can just go into that improvisation, into the moment, and not control, and let it flow. So yeah, what do you guys reckon?
You go first, Katie.
I think for a long time we've been encouraged to dart about all over the place, and we've been encouraged to look outside of ourselves all the time. So I've just been feeling very strongly the need to simplify and kind of pull my energy back from all these. It's like we go out on limbs and tentacles all over the place, especially with all the internet world and everything. So I've just been feeling the more simplicity and stillness we bring in, obviously we tap back into our knowing in that space. But I mean, it's reflected to us everywhere. I mean, as I said, I'm sat in a supermarket car park at the moment, so there's a lot of busyness behind me, but I'm looking out there's a few like trees in front of me, and I'm looking out at the ivy on the trees. And it's like constantly nature is reflecting to us that simplicity and that trust, because obviously those who still seek to manipulate and control all of us are wanting us to be in fear all the time, but that deep trust and knowing that we have is infinite, like all of this drama that's playing out is but a blink of an eye, and I think going back to that regularly is helpful, when such strong currents are trying to pull us all over the place.
Sure. It's very true. I mean, when you started playing the crystal bowl, I was holding a really, really powerful quartz crystal in my hand, and I felt the crystal trying to release itself from my hand. That you are on the other side of the world, and yet you were basically projecting a signal from your central heart intelligence, right? Your heart knows it's more intelligent than anything else that exists within your external constructs or what you ultimately, allow yourself to be projected into. So I felt that with the crystal wanting to leave my hand and be drawn to source, you were the source, right? You were recognizing in that moment your divine connection, your divine spark that wasn't quantum entangling with anything that was of a distraction, that was of an egoic nature, that was of a controlling, framework or anything. It was just a pure signal that was reaching out to me on the other side of the world. And the two energies, the two polarities were combining, becoming one, and they were basically drawn. They were magnetically pulled, which is what we live in. We live in an electromagnetic grid of connection, right? But as Katie just motioned, she wouldn't allow herself to be drawn into the negative polarity of the busyness that she was feeling, and focused instead of entangling with the beautiful natural ivy, of the trees, which she then, in that moment, created an alliance with those trees and that ivy. And that ivy is essentially the ally that creates a neutral, like a neutralizer. It's like an antidote to all the distraction and all of the imperfection that we're all made to feel, right? It's the way that people project on us and the way that we project on them. So believe it or not, what Spirit just did then by trying to pull this crystal out of my hand towards where you were, Ricky, demonstrates that inanimate objects, the way that we perceive them as, oh, it's just a rock come out of the ground, man, wow, No, it's actually a living, breathing, conscious being, and it too shares the same polarities that we do. So that's a good beginning, in the sense that if the intention is pure of heart, then inanimate objects and animate objects will ultimately combine in the same particle-based energy field to create a co-creative space devoid of chaos.
Wow, Mike, I love that. That's very beautiful, and yeah, and what we entangle with, what we're connecting with, and of course, sometimes the alchemy is in, okay, I feel that busyness, I feel that chaos, it's there. I choose to focus on this, but I'm going to allow myself to just, if the chaos energy is coming into my field, I'm going to allow that, and I'm going to allow it to come through and out. But now I'm focusing back on, what it is that's feeding me, and the nature being so neutral like that is really beautiful. And when you said it, I literally could just feel the truth of what you're saying, and it's coming in as an emotion, but it's a higher emotion, because I know we talked a lot about emotion, and you've seen me with all my healing stuff that I've been doing, and you've seen it. Wow, 3 or 4 years ago, quite pulled around by my emotions, and I'm slowly. But the point is that emotion can be from that trauma sense, of course, where we're being pulled around by it, and we can't quite hold ourselves, as the mother and divine father and mother that we need to where we can come to that place, but on the other side of emotion is the divine intelligence, which is when you said that to me, and you said that nature is reflecting that, and I felt that from you as well, Katie. Nature is reflecting something neutral, and when I felt that emotion, it was my soul telling me, yes, let's remember this. And this is why it's so beautiful. We really need to be sensitized. We need to feel as a human species at this moment in a way that's grounded and balanced. so that we can discern the truth. Because when we feel that emotion like that and something moves us that someone said, we take note now, you know, because this is a time to really take note of those things and be like, yeah, I can't ignore that. But of course, you know, some of us learnt to ignore our intuitions and but it's that emotional channel. It's like, oh, whoa, yeah, or that shivers, you know. And I think it's really time to recognize when we are being called by those things, and to not dismiss them or second guess, like you used to say to me, Mike. You second guess yourself a lot, you said to me, and you were right. Yeah, I wasn't trusting my first instinct, you know.
But we all do, just so you know. Don't single yourself out. We all do. We all second guess ourselves because we've been indoctrinated with certain levels of different types of programming and social engineering, and the list goes on, you know, they're labels, bottom line. And they're all designed to rob us of our power, our sovereignty, and our soul's connection to spirit. Because believe it or not, all of what we're learning more than anything is that we've been making a distinction through the false light of spirituality, that there is in fact a distinction or a separation between the soul and the spirit. No, there's fucking not. Never been that way. Everything is perfectly aligned in God's divine plan if you allow yourself to no longer be attached to the gravity. The gravity is what holds everything in place. Okay, we are part of a divine creator spiral that ultimately generates chaos as a particle in the quantum field. And when we mingle or when we involve ourselves with other particles or other souls, we co-create more of the chaos. So we've got to learn to untangle ourselves from the chaos. And our natural ally to do that is nature. But because nothing talks about connection to nature and only talks about let's connect to all the material things, all the technology, all the AI, and these are not our allies, these are our enemies. And I don't know if Ricky's told you, Katie, but I've been inspired now as a result of the ridiculous, you know, circumstances we all were exposed to during the COVID era, right? The 3 years of the COVID era, that I'm writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is being inspired by understanding that, well, if you're going to be in a war, which we're all in right now, we're in a battle of mind, a battle of spirit, and a battle of soul, and they're all the same thing, really. It's just we label them, we create those separations, detachments, that we need to know our enemy. And once we know our enemy, right, which is a part of ourselves, right, that's when we realize, well, if we create chaos, then it's the gravity that holds the chaos in place. What is the magic ingredient? What is the gravity? Well, the gravity is what triggers us. And what triggers us more than anything is our emotional state. So really what we're doing now in this day and age after the COVID era is redefining the language that now gives us a true expression of our illuminated light body, and not what we perceive, right, to be, you know, the perception that the so-called light working and spiritual community creates for us. That's false. It's false light. Religion is false light. You know, all of those constructs and all of those attachments, well, it's just false light. And because light is basically created by electrically charged particles, it means that we're all subjected to, and here's the killer. I love this part. It's the part I'm just going to go fucking nuts on in the book. It's not anything but dirty electricity, right? Everything in our life is fed with dirty electricity. And therefore, we are not actually clean particles in the quantum field. We're not clean souls. We're fucked up. It's part of the game. It's part of the quandary that we're all supposed to figure out while we're on this stupid planet at the end of the day. So when we walk in nature, when we walk down a concrete path forested by trees on either side, what do? We beeline down the concrete path, and every now and then our periphery catches that glimpse of nature that in this blinking universe that we operate within the quantum field, we just connect with for a split second. And then we're gone. We're not in it anymore. And then we connect again, and then we're not in there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm learning is that when I walk, which is funny because people look at me and go, this guy's walking sideways. He's not walking like he's looking where he's going. He's looking like I'm walking like a crab, right? Because I'm looking at the fucking trees and I'm going, cleanse me, clean my dirty electricity, because my whole electromagnetic field, including what surrounds my central heart intelligence, is just dirty electricity. I'm a dirty, distorted particle. So what do? Is we know our enemy. And what's our enemy? The thing that feeds it. The internet is our enemy. Everything that we create, co-create, and share on the internet takes us further and further into a state of our separation. And this is what I believe we can really win back. We have to win back with courage and with valor our connection to our true and higher self. So when these so-called protagonists get on these YouTube channels, which I fucking laugh at, you know, ridiculous people who sit there and go, yes, it's all about the blah and the blah and the blah and the blah. First thing I say to myself, they're being fed with dirty electricity. Their frequency is distorted, even though they are of the mindset that they're operating at a highly evolved, clean transmission signal. So everything they're telling me has basically got false truth to it. And this is where I'm at that crossroads where I'm discerning, using my filter of discernment to say, okay, I'm attracted to the image focus reality that's presenting itself to me on the screen.
Mm.
Underneath it all is a projection of dark matter, which is what we're all made up of, right? At the end of the day. And so if the projection is dark matter, but I see something that's image focused and attractive to me, where do I draw the line? What do I allow myself to be immersive to? So now what I do when I watch an esoteric talk is I say 50%, even before I hit the play button, I say, I quantum entangle with this video and know that 50% of what I'm about to hear and see is bullshit. And that registers in my consciousness, so it doesn't attach, right? It doesn't create gravity to draw me in and drag me into that flow state where I walk away like most people and go, oh my God, I am so liberated. Wow, I had no idea that that was reality. And she's so fantastic and amazing, and she's so full of love. And she's not. She's not at all. Sorry. That's
Right.
where I'm at.
Yeah, there's loads of it, isn't it? You know, like we're all being saturated really by all of this stuff. I mean, to be honest, I have very, very little to do with watching anything, you know, really. You know, I don't tend to open to all the stuff out there. You know, there's so many theories, there's so many fears, there's so many, you know, my way is the way kind of thing. And I just find all of it, as you were saying, it dirties the whole field. You know, there's just more and more and more of shit, basically, that I don't find helpful in any kind of way. because I felt for a long time that basically, like, when we're on the earth plane, we're basically just, well, ideally, just a pure conduit between source energy and Mother Earth, you know. And I've felt for a long time that the best thing I can do is just try and keep clearing and clearing and clearing away anything that is stopping me just being that pure connection between the two, because in our truth, we're in alignment with that. You know, I don't feel any need to be other than that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I just want the simplicity. You know, I just want simplicity. I want truth, and I want that connection that's there, you know, when we are still within ourselves and not pulled about by all this shit. You know, we are resonating with the ivy on the tree, with the cat curled up on the earth, you know, like we're with the rock that you were holding, with the tone of the crystal bowl that Ricky was playing. It's like I feel like there's just that basic resonance or tone, if you want to put it in that way, of, you know, like truth, which to me is just pure unconditional love and all that is, that's underneath all the bullshit and the dramas that we're playing out on the planet at the moment. And for me, I just want to strip things back to that place.
Well, there's only harmonic resonance and there's basically distorted resonance. And I think I think Mother Earth, I think Gaia herself has become a distorted resonant frequency. And she's now making her plan to basically rid herself of what plagues her, which is this very ignorant, very dark matter projected consciousness. We're not evolving, we're de-evolving, excuse me. You know, that's what I want to say to the world, is that you're not evolving, you're not ascending, you're not going anywhere. You basically got to understand that for the bulk of your life, your indoctrination program has been to believe that everything has to happen outside of yourself, right? It's all about external forces, right? You go to work, you punch a clock, you get a paycheck. Why? What's the reason? Oh, so you can accumulate and aggregate garbage, which makes you more and more unhappy because you measure it in the egoic sense against everybody else's accumulated garbage. And you realize that, oh my God, I don't have enough accumulated garbage. So what do? You ask for more hours, you punch more clocks, you do more work, and you move further and further away from who you really are, which is spirit.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear the esoterics talking about, but they can't. Why? Because they're all wrapped up in the chaos that they create. Every person who watches a video that says it's going to be doom and gloom, and I'm one of them. You can blame me, right? I watch astrology videos and go, fuck, Pluto. Oh my God, Pluto is the god of the underworld. He's got his arms wrapped around the succubus of Pisces and fucking her in the ass right now. And oh my God, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. What have I just done? I just projected a whole lot of dark matter on the entire global, population, all the plants, the trees, the rocks, the people, the waterways, the lakes, the crystals, by saying that. Now multiply that by 30 billion people. It can't work. It can't work. It does not actually function. It can't operate cleanly and it can't be functional. So what happens? We replace it with a false reality and a simulated reality, a simulacrum, if you like, a holographic assimilation. And then we can lose ourselves in the escapism of all that,
Mike, that's a... Go on.
No, I'm done. I'm just, I want to put that in context to you, Ricky, more than anything else, because,
Yeah.
Your mission has been to deal much more than most with more polarization, right? You're polarized by so many things because it's teaching you how to make those distinctions and use those important filters of discernment to make authentic conscious choices that serve your greater state of being in this world.
Yeah. And so, of course, making mistakes, what you would call as mistakes, I mean, there's no problem. Like we go around and do the same thing as long as we do. I do think there's a certain level of on this planet of where people are coerced into staying stuck. You know, I think there's more interference in that way going on, where the evolution is being sort of stunted a little bit.
Yeah,
really. And so, but the alchemy is in, you know, like what you were saying about, I wanted to put into personal context some of this, what we've been talking about, because it's really bringing me back to what I've been experiencing before, which is rejection and the feelings of rejection, right? And how what you were saying about looking up to others in the YouTube community or seeing these people and going, wow, you know, and how once they've got a big following, then everyone's like really, you know, interested. And then because someone's got a big following, it means they've got something amazing to say, you know, or whatever, and how we can give our power away in that. So what I realized is that there's a weight, there's a gravity that sometimes we can't see, which is our unconscious, of course, our unconscious things. And with the fact that in society these days we're tending to want to escape so much, then we're even less likely to see what the weight is of these things. And then that's how society can manipulate through the finding our weaknesses, you know, the want to be loved, the want to have a community, the want to feel included, you know, the want to feel like you belong. And so I discovered this week that I have been projecting on someone and putting them on a pedestal, just like we do with these pop stars or whoever it is, and in a way not really valuing myself. And so this is a journey to try and understand what is it that we're actually doing here, because if these unconscious things are so unconscious, they're running our show. And I believe that becoming Neo in the Matrix is actually understanding those wounds clearly, so that they can no longer, of course, define us or pull us. And for me, so it's like, okay, let's feel into that rejection. Okay, you know, the first relationship with a girl when I was younger, and she was the one that everyone wanted, you know. So when I was rejected, it like went poof. But then I realized it was also growing up without the mother and, you know, the father not being there, and, you know, all of these very things in young childhood. So as the brain can actually understand where is this coming from, it becomes conscious, and then we can actually make that decision to not be ruled by that. Because of course, for me, with this feeling of rejection and wanting to be seen, which a lot of musicians have, you know, we have that wanting to be understood and seen, it becomes a pull that sort of drives us. And so I was feeling recently, you know, I want to achieve, I want to do all this stuff again. And it's, of course, it's a balance. It's nice to feel like we want, that we've got a driving force, we've got something that's driving us, but where is that drive coming from? And for a lot of the population, I can assure that the fear of abandonment, or the wanting to be accepted, or the fear of lack, or all of these things are driving those decisions. So as a human, as we can really honor and self-love and self-regulate, that's definitely, you know, and breathe and come into our center and spend time during the day to stop, come home from being out, you know, let's calm our nervous system, you know, and and Mike's been talking about this quite a lot recently, about how our nervous system is sort of highly strung in the modern world, and just a small thing triggers someone into, you know.
People are getting you know, a lot of people's inner stuff is really getting shaken about at the moment, isn't it? And, you know, like all of us have been lucky really that we've been walking with levels of awareness for quite a long time, you know, but for a lot of people, it's the first time, you know, like with all the COVID bullshit, that was like a real sort of starter for a hell of a lot of people's journeys with this thing. And
That's right.
when this happens, I'm sure it will have been the same for you, Mike, when you started remembering in this life what your truth is and stuff. It's chaotic for a while, it is. You know, like we're coming up against massive, massive programs and conditioning that we took on from the moment we came out of the womb, you know, and it's quite strong, those things. So many people at the moment are going through those battles that, you know, we did a big chunk of fucking years ago. So, I mean, we're having to ride out the waves of all of this. But what I wanted to say before with things, you know, because obviously we do know there's a lot of manipulation. We do know all the psyops, all of this shit that's going on. You know, we're well aware of all that stuff. But I think it's just always important for ourselves to remember and to keep giving the message to people as well that we have choice. You know, we have choice all the time in what we give our attention to, what we give our energy to, what we allow in our space, what games we choose to jump in on. You know, we are always ultimately in the point of, you know, it's our choice. We're massive, creative, powerful beings, and the dark energies and all of this fucking shit, you know, they have only got the power that we give them, you know, through the programs, through the conditioning, through all the fucking pools of various emotions that we might still have stirring about in us. You know, they only have the power that we give them, and it's our choice. It's our choice whether we're in this game or not, you know. And while we play out all these fucking terrifying games and shit, you know, like the ivy's just quite happily fluctuated in the birds are quite happily landing on them,
And
you know.
on the bed. Exactly. You got it right on, Katie. You got it, Katie, because what you learn very quickly when you realize that the reason we got pushed through that really obtrusive, you know, birthing canal for those 3 years was to realize our role as perpetrator and victim. And everything you were just speaking about, Ricky, relates to the trauma, the lack of the father and the mother, is that you were being shown what it's like to be the perpetrator, right? Got left behind, you know, got kind of like, you know, discarded, got sort of like, I was an accident in the so-called loving union of my parents or whatever. That can be victim. You feel a victim. But you're being a victim because in a different incarnation of the demiurge that we all operate within this relentless recycle program, which is part of the quantum field, right? At the end of the day, particles continue to, what do? They keep sort of tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. But what ended up happening is that the so-called dark controllers, which is the CERN and the DARPAs and all of these false light scientific, you know, institutions and whatnot, is that they were able to take a particle and change its mass. And when they did that, just like in Oppenheimer, the movie that I told you inspired me to start writing the book, he realized that by taking those particles and not trying to pull them apart would create an explosion, right? An outward, you know, force. But by bringing them together, smashing them together, as they say, they're smashing particles together in CERN, they would create a fusion process. And that fusion process is what creates the imbalances. And then we don't know if in that moment if we are a victim or if we are the perpetrator, or are we a Jekyll and Hyde of both?
That's right.
That's what I learned over those 3 years, that, yeah, I was playing a victim card, but why? Because I was a perpetrator in a previous recycle, and I was being told through karmic debt, if you believe in that sort of thing, that you got to go through this, and people manifest that as the projection of a dark night of the soul. Right?
Yeah, I agree. But Mike, we have, you know, this is my opinion, that we have, of course,
Yeah,
we have both. But, you know, just as much as these experiences are about that maybe we've been the perpetrator, and we have, you know, I have in this life and I have in other lives. It's the point that through these experiences, once we start to come to peace with them, through the traumatic experience, we become, we find the deeper understanding, which maybe the other generations who did the things that affected us didn't have. And so that's the thing. That's why, for me, it's not so much feeling a victim, it's feeling the pain of the wound of that, but recognizing that the people before me, you know, the parents or whatever, had their reasons. And in coming into that and alchemizing it, we come to more peace with others, because for a lot of us, everybody represents our mother or father. You know, I've probably projected father on you, do you know what I mean? So through my being able to actually relate to myself and how I feel and alchemize those wounds without buying into the drama, if you know what I mean, then I can now actually understand my father better, and the history of humanity. So we're having more and more compassion through what we're actually going through. And I feel like that's the real reason to do the deeper work as well, because you're becoming humbled. You're becoming humbled by what you've gone through, because the victim part of you will be more about using your pain and your trauma as an excuse to keep doing what you know, to keep drinking or to keep doing the unhealthy thing. Whereas the healing, recognizing the victim, is that, you know, you're recognizing where you were actually a part of it. You know, I've seen recently how my lack of self-worth, my shame, has allowed punishment or punishing entities for other people to try and bring me down. So normally I would be like, well, fuck you, what you're doing. This is why I'm quite forgiving, because I'm a bit like, well, I understand that part of this behavior from other people is actually that they're getting pulled into the vortex of my actual trauma, especially when they're people who get close to me. So in that way, it's less about, you know, you bastard, why did you do this to me? And more like, well, okay, why am I allowing this in? And not everything that happens to us, of course, happens because we've allowed it in, maybe, or that we deserve it in some way. And it's good to get really clear on that, you know. But it's just that, you know, so what I wanted to get across to you is that how deeply I feel that it's really beautiful, because I can feel it now. We can sort of surrender to all this energy and all this life coming in and recognize that, okay, everything I feel is all right. You know, it's okay to feel it all. It's okay to feel the anger, all these things. And we recognize that there's a divine river of grace, which I'd like you to explain what you feel about that in a minute, what your divine river of grace is to you, which is that there's behind everything, and Katie knows this very well, that there's divine love and acceptance from, you know, our soul or our ancestors or God or whoever it is. The deeper intelligence knows what we're going through, and these ancient wars and everything, and all the resentments that are collective resentments and these things that are carried. There's a message and a journey that we're going through, and we need to trust the journey. And that is where we can ground. We can just relax, because we can actually trust that even things that we don't want to be happening, we don't want to face, it's okay. Like, there's something beautiful behind it all, and we can trust that, you know. So that's what I feel about all that.
Yeah.
I feel, man.
All these things that we go through, I mean, basically we're just experiencing what we experience all of that. And I do think that's part of the reason why we choose to go through all of this. You know, we want to feel, we want to experience, we want to, you know, I mean, what's the point in having these lives if we don't feel all of these things? But it's like it's going through that then does open our hearts ever more in compassion to absolutely all that is, you know, and going through the experiences of being in turmoil with it and all that is part of it, you know. And I think, you know, when you've gone through a fair amount of those sort of things yourself, it does just open you up deeper and deeper to the compassion and the pure unconditional love behind all of it, you know, and the knowing that everything is all right, no matter the number of programs and fucking fear fucking shit that's coming out all the time. You know, it is all right. It's absolutely fine. And in virtually, well, you know, like in virtually every single moment of our lives now is all right. You know, we're told to project into the future. We're told to keep going back to the past. You know, it's like we're getting shuttled about. But whenever we are here now, it's all right, you know? And we just keep flooding ourselves with the messages that things are not all right. And it's fucking bollocks.
Of course it is. And the thing is to realise, to qualify that, Katie, is to say, am I of relationship with it or am I in relationship with it? A simple qualification of the energy. Because when we say we are of relationship with it, then we are part of it, right? And if we're all warring through the disconnect and the separation to war against each other, that's what's happening, isn't it? We're warring against each other at every level, every possible level that's imaginable. We are warring against each other. And so what does the energy do? It resonates with that. It creates that. We become in relationship with that rather than of relationship to it, meaning there's an objective perspective and there's a subjective perspective. And when people kind of like talk about the collective, they're not even dealing with the most important aspect of all, is how can you be projecting into the collective if you don't even understand your own lack of self-love?
Yeah.
You know, I've always been of the mindset that people who go on and go, love, 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 fucking bullshit, fucking Jesus Christ. Where's the self-love? Then I'll believe what you're talking about. Right. So when I call them out now, Katie, they say, oh, Mike, you're so amazing. I fucking love you. And I go, no, you don't. No, you don't. Full of shit. Just say instead, hey, Mike, respect you, care for you, acknowledge you, appreciate you, but don't give me this love shit. Right. I love my cat more than I love my mum. Right. I love my plants more than I love my friends. Why? Because that is unconditional. That is truly authentic, genuine love. Not this human bullshit. Excuse me. And now I look back at all my relationships because, you know, when I was in the, you know, now my ego's taking over because it wants to be triggered so that it creates reaction. But even my old relationships when I was, you know, doing the teenage star making thing in the music industry for the 30 odd years, that was all false love, right? Because most of those women, and, you know, and I'm projecting here, and admittedly, most of those women simply saw, well, if I'm in relationship with this man, there are going to be many, many opportunities and doors open as a course of the false relationship, which I'm going to express love in order to hold that hold that gravity in place. But at that time, the consciousness wasn't remotely heightened enough or alive enough within me to know that this wasn't real. Whereas now it knows. We have that inner knowing where we trust our true, authentic nature because the foundation is self-love. I fucking love myself, right? I know that if no one understands me or no one wants to hang with me or no one wants to be with me, it doesn't matter because I have a fabulous relationship with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, you can't offer that love truly to anybody else until that self-love is in place.
That's
completely. Yeah.
And no one's talking about it. No one talks about it, Katie, Ricky. No one's talking about that, right? They're always talking about the projection that is the emotion of love. We need to redefine the different emotional states to enter into the river of ease and grace. That's how I define it, Ricky. The river of ease and grace is without beginning and without end because there is no defined outcome, expectation, or agenda of the river. The river just flows. It just does what it does. It doesn't quantum entangle. Oh my God, I'm going through this rolling valley and it's very scary. And it doesn't think about that. It doesn't entangle with it. So it doesn't create the gravity, which is the outcome, something that's definitive. And in relationships between men and women, there is always a definitive desire or outcome, isn't it? I want to be loved. How come she doesn't love me? How come he doesn't love me? Right? That's already fucking chaos in itself.
Yeah, and you get into codependency as well and all that, and how
absolutely
that this is what I'm realizing with this rejection wound, that is internalized, which I'm now coming to peace with, is an opportunity to love myself more. Yeah. And of course, when you see that, because men have this a lot, because we feel like, if we don't step up to standards in certain ways, then we're not enough and all of this. And it's a real power drain and a power loss because, on some level, it's fun to play with these things, but that's the difference. To play with, like, okay, I'm going to try and get myself really strong because that's cool, and it feels good. And like, I'm going to wear really nice things and I like wearing really nice things. And yeah, it kind of gets some attention, but I'm not like really needy on that attention. So it's fun to play with them. But when we're really driven by those things, and we really can't sort of, the wound is like, I'm going to be rejected if I don't, like me at the moment, if I don't learn to drive and have it together and I look like this guy that's like, got all this stuff, and so the desire, the pull to try and achieve, and I admit it, that's what I'm working with at the moment, is this desire to achieve. And in some ways it's nice to have that because it's an extra pull. If you think, oh, my partner would love this, that, and you're with someone, that's kind of nice, but it's only when it's in balance. It's only when, like, your achieving is coming from a place of like, I actually want to do this, which is, so it's nice sometimes when a partner or a friend or some, some desire to be seen or to be whatever is actually pulling you in a good way that's in your divine flow, which is why you say to me sometimes, Mike, about how, sometimes the ego is propelling us forward towards our destiny, but other times the wounds are actually a hindrance and the wounds are keeping us stuck, or they're making us self-sabotage, or they're making us push too hard, for an outcome. And that's really like quite interesting, that whole thing, But what we know is that as we metabolize that wound, as we come to peace, as we come to more self-love, and we can come into balance and into actually choosing to play this game rather than the Matrix fucking with us. We're choosing, And that is where we go out into the world. We're like, yeah, I'm doing this because it's fun, you know, because I like to play with all the forms and all of that, you know, and not that I want to be loved or I want to be seen. And it's a really different.
It's not coming from a desperation inside, like a hole that you're trying to fill from an outside force, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, because the force is to try and make yourself whole through outside things. It's never ever going to fucking work. You know, everybody that we pull in to try and fill that space within us, they're not going to be able to, you know, and then that's when people start blaming and hating and all of this fucking shit, you know, like, I don't like you anymore because you're not filling this gaping fucking hole inside me. And it's like, you know, only ever can come from us. And the thing is, when you've come to that place of truly loving yourself, truly having compassion for yourself, for everything that you've gone through, and then the extension of that is to have the understanding and the compassion for everybody else who's played a role in your story. You know, when you do feel like that, you don't need anybody else.
Powerful.
You know, that's the thing then, like, you know, you may choose to share with people, you may choose to hold space for other people while they do that work within themselves, but like that actual need for the other doesn't really exist anymore from that space.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think the magic word here again is be playful. Come from a playful view.
Yeah.
Because we don't, I mean, again, you know, when we think of play, what do we think of? Well, let's fool around, you know, let's be, you know, but it's not actually. It means being light of heart, bubble of joy, in gratitude, greater service to self. I used to say greater service to others. No, greater service to self, and as a course, project that service to others. Yes, that works. I like that, you know. But this whole, we need to save people, and we need to be always open, always available to deal with other people's drama and trauma. No, that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to do that. But that's part of the program.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's balance, isn't it? You know, and it's where you're coming from when you're doing stuff. And sometimes we, you know, the desire to fix or the desire to, you know, it's your agenda, isn't it? You know, what is your agenda?
I'm going to have to wind up shortly, sorry. I don't know how much longer you wanted to go on for. I can just forget to it.
Yeah, I just want to ask one question of both of you, so I've got a bit of an idea of how, because I always look at Sundays, right? We're into a new 7-day cycle now. So I love the idea of a reset, even though it's Gregorian calendar and that's false bullshit as well and blah, blah. But I like the idea of, okay, midnight on a Sunday can be a reset for the week ahead, right? So I always ask to alchemize and bring in the magic. But what's the magic? The magic is something that's playful, something that I don't have to be expecting or you know, drawing in unnecessarily, but rather, you know. So the question to both of you, all emotions aside, right? How do you guys go about alchemizing magic that inspires your creative space in this world?
Sorry, can you say that again? You were breaking up again.
Oh, sorry. Okay. How do both of you alchemize the magic, right, that you creatively inspire in your world?
Not very well. I'm still I've not got that properly. But I'm still clearing because there's been too much personal clutter and crap around. So I'm literally wanting to see the wood in the trees kind of thing. But I mean, the thing is, it's just a state of being, isn't it? Like all of these things are a state of being, because it's something that we can shift into at any moment. You know, like I've just said that, but then I'll get a wave of the humor behind all that is, you know, the magic behind all that is, the beauty behind all that is, you know. So I mean, it's just it can shift like that, can't it? You know.
Okay. That's how the
And I
quantum
think
universe works.
beautiful, you know.
Mike, can you try and help me understand that a little bit more? What you're trying to say there? Like, sorry, I'm a little bit.
Well, just in context, everything we've discussed, right? Everything we've discussed has been about that we've demonstrated clearly that we're all operating at a much more accelerated vibration than most people. So we understand things from an internal perspective better than most people do. Now, part and parcel of that is it's all well and well to talk about it, right? We talk about it every day. Talk. But you've actually got to go out there and walk and squawk about it, right? You've got to squawk and walk the talk.
Love it.
So with that in mind, that's where I'm interested to find out, how do you alchemize the magic that helps to reinforce what you already know as, you know, beautiful children of God. You're both beautiful, incredible children, exponents of light, energy, fractalized, fragmented, whatever you want to call it. But the more we can alchemize that magic without having an agenda, without bringing gravity into the framework, the freer we will feel, the closer we will feel to source.
Yeah.
So source is about alchemizing the magic that we all are.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know. No. So basically, yeah, for me, I'm, well, put it this way, at the moment, I'm recognizing parts of myself, you know, because it's not just about doing shadow work. And, you know, so part of alchemizing the magic is actually allowing ourselves to be authentic, to be who we are, right? That's where magic happens, isn't it? When we're authentic. And what is that? We don't always know what that is. So sometimes that's about just sitting there, and I have to breathe. So when I've got these waves of, you know, emotion, I'll breathe with it when it's a so-called lower emotion. And then I'll sit there and I'll be like 10 minutes and I'll be like, oh, that's pretty strong, you know. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like going crazy around the house, jumping around, being happy. So it's the realness of what is. So yes, authenticity and realness does it. And then in other ways, you know, I've been thinking about soul retrieval lately, you know, and how, yes, soul retrieval is doing that work of expressing those things, being expressive, you know, allowing our expression, you know, pushing through blocks of shame and all of this, you know, realizing who we are as much as what was not us. And that's the other thing, is like, you know, to realize who we actually are and bring those parts of us into our life. Like I can remember now how when I was younger, I was a bit cocky, you know, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this. And I was a bit, you know, like, let's do it all. The whole world is ours, you know. So, you know, what I'm saying is part of soul retrieval or soul embodiment is actually remembering what we actually are as much as what has hurt us or what is not us, you know, and bringing that in. So, yeah, how do I alchemize? The magic is, it's not, there's no particular way. And it's about being dynamic. It's about listening as much as it is about doing. So I think that is where this meditation is actually, although you could say trying to meditate, is actually creating some kind of structure which you might lose the magic in.
True. Good point. Well said. No one's talking about that. The same meditation is the key to everything.
Well, it's like your practice, you know, yeah, we need some discipline, but it's like everything in balance, right? And that is where the magic comes in. So magic, we create a container of magic through allowing ourselves to play with life. I think playfulness is definitely the message we're going to leave with today. And so, yeah, doing this spiritual work is not meant to be serious. And we can be, when we trust, when we have the faith and the trust in the path, which we get through going through this journey, we find the magic because we're no longer fighting with ourselves, and we become the magic.
Right on. Right
Casey,
on.
sorry?
You are? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's in being. It's, you know, as soon as you come back to this moment, you're in that place anyway. It's just that we spend so much of our time not in the moment, don't we? You know, for whatever reason, it's, you know, when you're in the moment, all is beautiful, it's open, possibilities are everywhere, you know, it's a very, very beautiful place to be in, and we can choose to be in that anytime we want, really, but we tend to get caught in the flows of all the bullshit and the programs and the repeat scripts and all that shit, don't we? So, you know, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to disappear. I'm going to have to turn the engine on in a second. So
Okay, that was good. Good to catch up with you, and good to hear your wisdom, Katie.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Mike. As you say, it's been a very, very long time.
It does, definitely. But I do remember very vividly our last conversation, so that's always sat up in my grey matter. So that's good to know.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I hope I said something worthwhile at that point.
You did. It was great. It was good.
Yeah,
but we were
I'm
all at a different level at that time. I promise you that. If you go back to that time, we were all at a different level of our conscious evolution, completely away from where we are right now. So it's great to see how far all of us have traveled, you know, this very, very beaten path that's been, you know, tough and challenging, to say the least. So take care. Yeah. Okay, be in your heart. And just remember, whatever you're projecting, it's not you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the message I've been saying to people. When you project, it's not you. It's not you.
No.
It's a fractalized aspect that's been kind of left in the wash, and it's not happy, so it wants to project all the negative shit out there. But take it on the chin and own it, right? You're a projector, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. We're all doing that. You know, anything that's still unresolved is cycling.
Absolutely.
I'm going to bow out.
All right, lots of love. Bless you. Bye. We'll carry on, Mike, for a minute. Take care. Bye for now, yeah? Yeah. Okay, that's good. What have we got left? I can take this one. Oh, no, you're listening to me on this, aren't you? Let's just take this off a minute, and I'll come on the other one. Okay. So how you feel, Mike?
Good, man. I mean, you know, this is what I said. He said, as long as people who are going to be in this group simply have good, solid, probing questions, right, concerning their life, concerning their relationships or whatever, I can be of benefit. But it's not going to be about me, because you know me, Ricky. You don't want me talking about my wisdom, right? Because that's when it gets fucking out of hand.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be a conduit. I'm happy to be a hyperdimensional conduit of knowledge in the library of, you know, of great knowledge and deep wisdom to help people make sense of what they're going through in life, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual. There are answers to the problems and the concerns, right?
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful, because when we feel that, we know that we can trust, because there's always a reason, there's always an answer. You know, even when things are going very nasty in our life, there's always something, and there's always something beautiful awaiting. So it's really good, because then you're not going into this sort of too much into the fear of it all.
And I think what we can also do, right, because, you know, don't forget that even though I can scry now, that whole concept, that whole modality, that originated from you. Because you mentioned it many times in our backwards and forwards conversations when we were on Telegram, and even before that on WhatsApp, but I never took it seriously. I never really went and researched it, right? I just said, the fuck is he talking about? He's scrying. What the fuck is he doing, you know? But you had a playful relationship with it, so I went, yeah, well, good, man. Makes you feel good. Why not? You know?
I know. I was like, oh, he didn't quite get what. Oh, I was a bit like, okay, Mike. Well, I kind of understand what you're saying. It's yeah, there can be illusions in it, but I was like, I feel like this is like, you know, really sort of guiding me in a good way, this scrying business, you know, not the typical scrying, but more, you know, seeing signs in things during the day, looking at shapes in the room around you, and seeing that actually my subconscious mind is trying to tell me something. And sometimes using memories from the data banks of our life, because we've seen so much in our life, use any images. It could be anything, it could be of a car, whatever, and then suddenly you know, that's the symbology. My subconscious is trying to tell me a story by using images of my life and everything, maybe even past lives, to give me something that it wants to show me.
Absolutely, and you should put that down, or, you know, to extract that from this recording, so that you can bring it up literally with any new person that comes in, saying, look, you have this kind of like image focused consciousness with all these, you know, things that you're being bombarded with all the time. But what you really need to understand is that your subconscious is seeing these interesting, you know, correlations and shapes and patterns and whatnot, you know, in the construct, and it's trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And if you take, you know, if you pay mind to that, right, if you actually, okay, I'm going to focus when I'm in the room with these people or at this place, and I'm going to see what presents itself that I resonate with.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and if we can teach people then, you know, the actual art of scrying, which is really, you have to let go of the construct, right? Remember, like I said to you on the last conversation, if the alarm bell rings out front and you're in here talking to someone, you have a choice to quantum entangle with what is projected out front, or to remain without the gravity, right? The emotional desire to know, and simply drop everything, let everything float away. And then by pulsing on your third eye with your second and your third finger, pulsing on your third eye, nice and slowly, breathing, you'll see an image. You'll see an image, and it might not be clear, or could be blurry or furry or whatever, but you'll see an image. And if there is something at the door, it will be there. Right? So I've done that, and I've said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, the alarm is going off. Now, normally I would be triggered by fear and reaching for the baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
Now I turn everything off, so it's dead quiet. So if there is something at the door, I want it to know that I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And then I start pulsing on my third eye. And what I see is I see a Wetiko spirit, right? I see a dark spirit looking for a way to infiltrate and bring its energy into my flow state. And its only intention is to fuck me up. There's nothing else. It's just there to say, I need you to project fear to feed me, feed that part of me, what I'm projecting, so that I can be even more scary and I can be even more evil and I can be even more oppressive to you. And the more I push you down, like I've got my, you know, my proverbial, you know, foot on your throat, stifling you of breath, the more I feed, the more I live, the more that I embody your life force.
Mm-hmm. It's a very real thing.
Yeah.
And
we need, yeah.
Just as that is very real, and I'm very aware of that, and it's good to be sensitive to when that is actually happening, and when people are in front of us who look like they're channeling, to be okay, you know, because forgive them for they know not what they do isn't about just allowing abuse or anything. It's about recognizing that this person is not in control properly of themselves, and then taking, you know, a good action from there, and choosing not to react and buy into the drama and feed the louche, you know, energy. And of course, just like this can happen, we know that our ancestors, or, you know, loved ones, or God, or whatever you want to call it, is working on the other side to continually bring opportunities to help us. But and the same person who earlier on was helping us, 3 hours later has gone into a trauma or something, and they now have, like you say, a Wetiko spirit working through them to fuck you over. And that's the thing, you know, to make the distinction that, you know, people are changeable, and so really we have to really trust this deeper sense rather than what's the visuals show us.
And the short answer to the enigma that it creates is you don't give it gravity. Remember, gravity is what holds everything in place. This is what this is the aha moment, right? When you think about all space stuff you watch, what are you watching? You're watching a dude. He's in this massive fucking plastic bubble of a suit, right? And he's floating. He's floating in free space. Nothing is entangling. He's not entangling with anything. Nothing is influencing him. He's just this particle, this soul, floating around in free space.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a comet comes and really, really out of nowhere, he's going to be triggered into creating fear. And fear is the gravity. And the gravity is what then holds the fear in place, instead of it coming in and going, oh shit, there's a comet. Oh, I'm good now. Yeah. Instead, it's like, fuck, it's a comet. Oh, it's coming to get me. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, what have I done? I've quantum entangled with the fear.
Yeah.
And now I'm holding it in place because my emotions create the gravity.
Yeah. So collectively, we're doing that. Yeah.
And we need to help people understand. Can you identify the gravity that is holding your negative emotion in place?
There's a choice, isn't there? And what I'm noticing recently is the more, because, you know, I think my journey is definitely sort of this empath sensitive type through the experiences that I've gone through. But of course, the more I can hold myself, when I will go, say, for instance, into London or whatever. I mean, these days I tend to be in my own bubble, but my aura's not too bad. You know, I feel quite good. But say there is some energy, like you say, the comet is coming in. And it's the ability to it's that ability to hold that alchemy, to transmute, you know, where we can actually sit with it. And okay, you could say that you don't want it to come into your space. That's fine. Or you could say, look, it's already come into my space, but I'm going to breathe. I'm going to alchemize this. I'm going to allow. And it feels, it feels like stress. I'm feeling the stress of the person around me and the collective, but I'm going to breathe that in, and then it's going through and out, you know. And so I'm actually alchemizing the energy that's coming into my body, you know, and I'm not absorbing and taking it in. But of course, the more clear our channel is, and the less we're caught in the victimy, you know, and all the cycles, the more we can actually navigate and move through the denser energies, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And what transmutes gravity is intention.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a perfect example. You get to the station to catch the train that takes you to London. Now, your projected memory is already, oh, I've had some pretty shitty times and weird things have gone down and weird people have projected on me and pulled their Wetiko spirit and tried to fuck me up and shit. That's what's going through your mind, right? So now you're at the electric doors of the train, and before the doors open or you open the doors yourself, you're saying, I quantum entangle with what lies beyond these two doors. And I quantum entangle with what lies beyond these two doors, which will only serve my greatest benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Now you open the doors.
I like that.
So you have intentionally allowed yourself into the field. You travel into London, and London will express itself in a manner that supports, right, the trajectory of your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And when something comes in to imbalance it, then you are deliberately being targeted in that moment from the demiurge to say, he's having too much of a damn good time here. We've got to start upsetting his cart. But you're already in tune with that. So when that girl walks in and she gives you the wink and you can tell that she's a sleazy tart, right? And she's not, and an NPC, right, trying to kind of, you know, get a rise out of you, you just turn around and go, yeah, right, grow up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what happens in that split second? Gone.
Yeah. I just want to say, I think it's important to recognize that sometimes, because it's been said that the people who are closest to us, who we've created connections with, you know, are the ones who can be used the most. And it's those that actually have had those sort of love ties for us, you know, that can be the most. And they'll be used to get in, to find the weak spots in you, you know. But in this, like what's been happening to me recently is like what you said, it's like, and I'm not reactive, you know, I'm just like, no, done with that. I don't need to, you know, I don't need to take that in anymore. That lesson's learned.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's still coming here and there to try and bait me, because we are being baited with our own traumas, you know, and our own weak spots, you know. But like, it's a great feeling that you're like, no, you know, like I deserve goodness, and I don't deserve to be shouted at or whatever it is, you know. It's a really,
and you know what else, Ricky, what you're triggering me to say right now quickly is that you actually, in that moment, you recognize your divine creator self. I am the creator of this reality, but I recognize these triggers that put my trauma back in motion. So I think in those moments, the big epiphany or the big aha feeling we have is that, oh, I'm the architect of reality here. That's why, you know, I'm the book, you know, is that we manufacture it all.
Yeah.
We manufacture it all. And there is an author that another friend of mine in England, you know, another guy I know in England has put me in touch with, saying that he's designed a theory, which he's putting into a book form as well, which he says that there is a term, I can't remember it offhand, I can share it with you once I look at something, that there is a term that accurately represents that mode of being. And it's so self-generated that it's almost impossible to kind of comprehend.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's the difference, you know. Although I kind of talk about the things from my past, it's now being done, and has most of the time, in a way to say that I'm using this to empower myself, because in trauma with people there's a disempowerment, if you know what I mean, a sense of that I'm disempowered. But for me, it's from this place of like, I'm choosing, my soul is asking me to clear this so that when someone is being used to trigger me, I will just be like blank slate. And actually, no, I won't just be blank slate, because it's not like as you clear these emotions and these wounds, like I was saying today, I've got a rejection wound that I now need to work with because I didn't see it was in my subconscious. It's not like it's just gone. It's more that it's the energy of it's gone, your emotional reactance has gone. You can face your triggers, you go into the storm of the things that you've been avoiding because it's painful. And that you also have the gift of now being understanding other people who are also struggling in that way. And you're probably likely, even unconsciously, your energy field will support those people. When they come into your energy, they sense that your spirit is supporting them, because, and you don't even have to give energy to do that. That's the funny thing, because, you know, when you're truly supporting someone, it's not about giving you fucking energy and like, oh, fuck, you know, like I'm drained. It's a totally different thing. The holding space of the spirit is like, it's almost, yeah, it's like that part of us that is Jesus, you know, that it's a very powerful aspect of us. So when these lessons are integrated in that, we seem to be able to, when people don't even know it, they don't even know it, but they know, like for instance me, that I'm mostly, for musicians at least, a safe person that people feel they can talk to. And they don't know why that is, but it's because something's alchemized in me where I'm less needy for attention, because I've done that work on myself to not pull their energy. And so, yeah, I've still got some ego stuff. It's fine. I'm okay with it. But ultimately, they're like, I'm going to talk to this guy because, like, you know, he seems like a good guy. And they don't even know what they're doing. It's a soul level thing.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say something. I'd like to share something with you that, and if it doesn't come out quite right, bear with me because I'm still working through it. Okay. So what I've learned is that the darkness, which is a projection, right? Remember that everything that appears in the as above, so below Hermetic principle is also the reflection of an inverted version of it. So I call it the doppelganger, right? So believe it or not, there is Mike Puskas in a different density, in a different dimension, a different spatial state that hates me, right? Has no love, no empathy, nothing, just hates me. And what it does, in my opinion, and this is where it gets really crazy, is that if I meet someone that I want to entangle with, right? I want you to be the keyboard player in my band, and you happen to be a young, nubile, teenage female. They have a conversation with me on Skype, okay, or whatever, and I give so much of my heart, right? I tell them I'm there to protect you. I've got a lot of experience. I'm an established player in the game. It's a very demonic realm that you're entering into. You don't know just how, how all musicians, all pop stars are manipulated souls, and they do make agreements with demons and the devil and all that. So I will protect you. I will be there to support you as long as you can provide me with loyalty. That's all I ask, is for some loyalty. And it's done, and oh yeah, that sounds great, and I really appreciate that, and can you talk to my mum and all that if that's the case or whatever. And then the call ends, and that girl or that guy goes away and gets into their normal flow of life. And then a few hours later, they're talking to someone, and they're saying to their friend, I just had this conversation with this established guy, and he knows a lot of people and blah, 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 and he wants me to be in his band or whatever. And that person they're talking to turns around and says, I wouldn't trust him. I don't need to know what he'd said to you or anything, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't trust him. And if there was a recording made, I would go back and I would watch it or listen to it again. And you know what happens when they do that? the projection of what I said is twisted.
Yeah.
And they are made to feel at the end of the going through the reference material, this man is dark, this man is evil, this man wants to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't respond to my messages or my texts, or even if I leave a message or a call, because they've been inverted in the matrix of their own making.
Yes.
And I've got no hope.
This is very, very big, and I just want to say that in relationships, have you noticed that when the relationship ends and maybe the people can't catalyze and come to, alchemize and come to terms with the what happened, and is always this kind of like trying to take responsibility, and understand it, and often it just ends in shit. And I do feel like, sacred connection gets interfered with. And I don't know if you've noticed, but like those exact things that you said there, the whole thing can just go to shit unless you're clear and communicative, and you speak clearly about, okay, we're going apart, this doesn't work, and you try and come to the best peace. But even that, it's like, I've seen that when couples go apart, it's almost like that demiurge energy gets in there and they take on lies, absolute fucking lies about the other person, like you said, has been done with you. And the person cannot see clearly at all. And I know I've done it as well, and you completely see a different person there because of those wounds as well. Because, of course, we take responsibility. It is our wounds that are doing this as well as the other energies. But it's a very big thing. And, that is why sometimes, I'm seeing this and I'm like, okay, well, this person's being funny with me and they don't trust me anymore, blah, blah, blah. What can I do? So I'm just like, well, I just have to accept it. Like, and it's difficult to be the bad person in someone's life, but sometimes you've got to realize it's okay to be the bad guy in someone else's life, and that wasting your time trying to prove what you did and didn't do, and it's like you get loosed on trying to. So all of these are like tests, really. They're tests, aren't they?
That's how I looked at it too, Ricky, what you were saying. But now I don't, because what I'm learning, and this is what I'm writing in chapter 5 at the moment, is that if my energy field is filled with EMF and ELF and dirty electricity, which distorts all of my expression, including my emotions, then I'm already giving the Wetiko energy, the doppelganger that hates me, all of the leg up it needs. I'm giving it the advantage by giving it an environment where it is totally comfortable fucking with me, right?
I agree.
So now I've got a clean zero electromagnetic field, and I am having conversations with people, and I'm not getting that response.
That's cool.
In fact, I'm getting from this one girl I spoke to on. Today's Monday now, so this would have been on Thursday, right? She contacted me on the website. I talked to her on Thursday. We connected again on Friday, and she said to me on Sunday, yesterday, in a text, I rewatched our video and I made so many notes that I'm excited to meet with you in person. I will come to your studio.
Yeah, I think the other thing to note is that, and that's the way to see clearly, is that these things always come and go. People who project a lot, most cases in the end, it turns round, and then they're actually seeing clearly again, which shows that obviously it's either, like you say, doppelganger entities, whatever it is. And that's the clue. When you see behavior from someone where they are really well-natured as a normal person, but when they're getting triggered, they completely go off their handle and they're seeing you wrong. But then later they're saying, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So yes, I have had that. But at the same time, I realized that I was pulling that behavior in from them, as I've told you before, because of that, because they were being used to trigger my wound. Which begs, it makes you think of the question, like, even the demiurge and all the entities and all the stuff, well, maybe God's given them permission to fuck with our shadow because of the fact that God knows that we've got a lot of work to do. But once we dispel the myths and once we see clearly, we will be able to, for one, discern what's coming from aspects of our shadow and, unconscious self, what's coming from the collective, what's coming from discarnate spirits and all these different things. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I've realized I just work with what's coming in my energy field, and I'm like, right, I'm going to alchemize that, But yes, ultimately, I suppose the point here is that it's very possible that everything is working for our own good, including interference and all these things.
Well, it does, because again, if someone turned around to me and said, you're going to be an encyclopedia of knowledge when it relates to, physics and the quantum field, I would have gone, yeah right, mate. Yeah, sure. Yeah, pigs will fly. No, there's no way. I was terrible at maths. I hated those.
Me
subjects.
too.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't, what's a fraction? Oh my God, a fraction. Oh my God.
Wow, really?
I could not deal with it. And now I understand it. I know E equals MC squared. Right. So that's easy. You've got one spatial dimension over here in an oscillating frequency, another spatial dimension over here with another oscillating frequency. And as they come closer together, what do? Because they operate at different poles of energy, is they repel each other. They repel each other.
Sometimes
so it doesn't matter how much you try to draw the two energies together of a male or a female, they repel each other naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we want to put such an emphasis on the novelty, right? When we meet someone and we're drawn to their physical attractiveness, right? We don't know anything about their life or their background or their devotional or spiritual practices. We just see a beautiful woman in front of us, dressed to the nines, smelling great, looking great. And our lustful desire overrides everything.
It can be both as well, it can be the lust and the love, because we can still feel that soul connection and be pulled in by it, but we're not really seeing the shadow energy of the other person as well. I mean, like in Glastonbury, it's easy to kind of walk around barefoot and be like, I love everybody. And, there's some truth in it, but it's like there's also some delusion in it as well, because you're not actually seeing where the shadow energy is. So
these people, Ricky, I'm sorry, man, these people, if you were walking down the street in Glasgow, right, and someone jumped out and beat the living shit out of you.
They nearly did.
Oh, really? Did
this
anyone
guy,
come
I'll just tell you quickly. I was just going along on my bike, right? And this guy, I think I stopped somewhere, and he got off his bike and he's like, "What's you doing?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "What's your problem?" or whatever. And he pushed me on my bike. And anyway, I suppose because I haven't been able to fight back a lot in my life, I just kind of stared in the window at him, Or was it after that he pushed me? I can't remember, but I stared at him in the window, and then he didn't like that, and he was like, "I'll fucking kill you." So I thought, I think I'll back off now. I'm not gonna kind of so yeah, so that was interesting.
That's a demonic energy right there that decided to break out of its own kind of shadow bubble and confront you directly.
And there's a lot of it in Glastonbury, because the deeper the deeper shadow work isn't being done as much as it needs to be, and because Glastonbury is a catalyst in an unhealthy way, I still feel it's not a catalyst I don't feel like it's a healthy shadow. It doesn't bring up shadow stuff in a healthy way. There's something twisted about it there. So so it does seem to bring out these sort of behaviors in people who are 1 minute love you, man, and then the next minute they're fucking swearing down the street.
Yeah, exactly. So another thing we can address in the groups that you hopefully will pull together here is actually asking the individual, do you know anything about where you live? Because you've got to remember that the entire planet is filled with these energy spots, these vortexes, And these vortex energies can either be bringing up beautiful, powerful kind of, connective energies, divine source energy. And it can also be bringing up really, really dark demiurge stuff as well. And they call it the river of blackness, that a lot of people end up setting their bedrooms up and their sleeping apparatus over a river of dark matter.
Right.
At night comes to life and brings itself up underneath you, and it starts to settle into you while you're sleeping. Taking your whole sort of cellular structure and whatnot, and it leaves an imprint in you. Every time you go back into the same place and sleep on the same river of darkness, what does it do? It gets stronger. So we need to ask people about, do you know anything about the environment where you live? And if not, you can almost even say, well, homework for you is to go online, put in your address, and do some tracing.
Absolutely, and that's more, leading towards the courses and that. So I want to develop that because these albums are done of mine now, which is really cool. And so now it's just waiting for the artwork for the covers. So I'm in a place where it's like I can develop some other things like this. I'd like to do a course at some point as well. And I know you did a great course with the Alchemy of Grace, and that's is laced with deep meaning. So here you are.
As I found out, and when Celestine died, when she got taken out by that microwave and her car crashed into that bridge, she did say to me 2 days before she went to the disclosure conference in Mount Shasta, in Arizona.
Wow, yeah.
Our wisdom has come too early. Our window was not now. People weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
And even the woman who ended up paying, one woman paid $900 and bought the lot, bought everything. And even when I had my one-on-one with her, she turned around and she said, I don't know why I wanted to buy everything. I think it's because I really love Celestine. I don't know you, Michael, so I'm sorry, thank you for getting in touch with me and whatever, because, but as I was viewing the video modules, it was only what was in my heart that knew what it was. But my physical self, my construct, couldn't interpret it into this reality.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay. So do you think that this was, she said, don't get me wrong, the wisdom came in and it was very, very much there, but I didn't know how to implement it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's why I think it didn't work in the end, and why we ended up basically, for lack of a better word, calling it quits.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's worth noting, isn't it? So that is where, really, really coming into our bodies, the embodiment, the time in nature, the getting to the nitty gritty, like what is it that really people need and how can we refine it down? Because where we've expanded so much into all these different things, and we're interested in that and we believe in that, and we're taking from that, and how can we get, and it's that people are begging for it really these days, like in some way they just want to be told, like, just give me the cookie, like, what do I have to do? I'll do it. It's like fucking too much.
This is what Lolita said to me, when we had our consultation. She said, Michael, you can't turn around and ask for antidotes to the poison you've already taken, right? She said, you're dead. I'm sorry, I'm talking to a corpse. And I went, okay. She said, but don't worry, because you're talking to a corpse as well. I'm dead.
Yeah.
I've taken the poison. I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm dead, right? Yeah. There's no antidote for me being dead, right? What there is there's preventative measures to ensure that the next time I recycle, they can't kill me again the same way. And I said, well, Lolita, be honest with me. How many times? I said, how many times have I been burnt to death? How many times have I been pulled apart by horses? How many times have they taken my tits, and how many times have they chopped my cock off when I've been a man? How many times have they split me in half? How many times did they stake me like a vampire in the night? I can't remember. It's been so many.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there just going, fuck me. Wow. Shit. Have I been? Oh, yeah. Looking at you. Yeah. You've been through it, mate. Don't you worry. You're a witch. You're a warlock. You're a soothsayer. You're a necromancer. You're a fucking, you're a dark magician. I just went, wow, fuck. Okay. Thanks, I think.
And have you noticed how, like, when you become aware of something like that, because I almost want to, it's not necessarily a nice thing what you're talking about, but I feel like I can hold that. It's almost like by becoming aware of what, and sometimes it's conjecture, like, did this really happen or did it not? But other times I know you've had past life memories that were real. And it's almost like when you become aware of something that's real like that, this whole alignment, it starts to align like that. And you can sort of like be in your power, because you're no longer, the elephant in the room is not like, do you know what I mean? And there's power in the elephant that's in the room by embodying it. And you can actually fully breathe, because it's almost like what you're actually breathing in, what you're dealing with. And I think as humanity, we need to actually know what we're dealing with, and the things that have been, because remember when I talked to you about that when I was traveling, and I said about that ancient thread that we were weaving, we've woven it through the generations, but when we got to Lemuria, or we get to Atlantis, or whatever it is, certain moments our own life, the difficult things that we've been able to face have created a kink in the, and it's like you want to get in there, and you can scry to do it, right? You can scry into those places and be like, what is that? Like, for instance, here's an example, like in this life, with one of my relationships, when it ended, I couldn't let it go, and I was like, what's going on here? And the thing I had to find was the linchpin, which was that I am enough. Because the end of the relationship made me feel like I'm not enough, because I took it on as if it was kind of like just me that was the problem, not realizing that, hang on, this is a dynamic, So if we can go into them places in the timeline, in the ancient timeline, and recognize the things that have been covered over and hidden, which has happened, then we're shedding the light to it, and then it's almost like down that thread, all the light starts coming in, and all the things that have been sort of like blocked from our awareness start filtering through the dirty river.
Ricky, it's called dust.
Yeah, so it's like the dirty river,
dust to come back into the field, right, which is being left out there.
Yeah, because really, honestly, like what we're dealing with here, when we talk about the whole of time, which is probably circular, there's no beginning, no end, is that there are just these, little blockages. It's almost like, you've got the cave, and like it's all got, all the rocks have come in. And so if we can just start to remove those rocks and know where they actually are, because that's the thing at the moment, we're not quite sure, humanity, and what's going on, we're trying to understand. And then that river starts flowing again. And I think that's really when we see that we've got such a traumatized generation, there's so many people, and the generations before, their biofield, as you would say, like the river, because it should be a river that's flowing, and we're in life, we're responding, we're
in relationship with the river, man. That's what we're saying. We're in relationship, not of relationship. Right?
Absolutely. So basically it's like as if we're a mirror of, on the universal scale, I feel like there are blockages in the universe, even though you'd think that it would be just perfect, like, well, why should there be any blockages in the universe, but I'm pretty sure there are, because we are a mirror of the universe, so we're collectively, the wounds that we're collectively holding are a mirror of something much grander than us. And as we metabolize that on the collective level, that's, you know, the grand awakening. We can then understand how we got to where we got to, because I think we can actually understand how we got here, because there's power in that, isn't it? I mean, to me, history was boring at school. It's like, what the fuck, this is boring as shit. But actually now it's like, hang on, my soul is trying to tell me what my past lives were and what the history of humanity has experienced for a reason.
But you've got to also remember that the history, the histology, remember it's been around a patriarchal projection. Most of it is rubbish.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Most of it is rubbish. And all that stuff that we still search for within the earlier epochs of existence, the Lemurian age and the Atlantean age, they never really were anything different to what we're experiencing now. It's just that the history book has said, no, we all walked around in white robes. Our hearts were out here, and we were literally, you know, floating around, and we were telepathic, and we weren't. We were none of the above, right? We were stupid, dumb, ignorant humans living in a different time, in a different place, and everything was fueled by our desire to know ourselves. And to know ourselves, we felt that we had to create technology. How are we going to know ourselves? Well, we're going to need to punch binary code and numbers and prime numbers into some kind of an abacus. Remember the abacus? Red, yellow, green, and blue, and pull it across here and that. Okay, that's how many loaves of bread I can buy, you know, all that sort of shit. So in order to get to know who we are, we developed or co-created with, you know, dimensional and interdimensional entities this technocratic, technological revolution that has now hit its absolute peak today, right?
It was also on the genetic level, wasn't it? You know, it was the DNA was manipulated, I'm pretty sure.
And if you get into that with the group, you're going to lose them, man, because that's the one area that everybody has a different take on. And even I won't talk about it anymore either and say, you know what? We're in the demiurge. We project darkness because we're creating dark matter, and we could project and create chaos. That's it. That's all you got to remember. Don't worry about the manipulation and Anunnakis and forget all that, right? Because that's designed to do nothing more than confuse the issue.
Distract us.
Exactly. But the one thing I did want to sort of like say to Katie before she had to go, and so I'll say it to you and you can pass it on to her, is when you break it all down, Ricky, we as our generation, because we're all of the same kind of, you know, periodic age.
And before technology. You know,
we had it, right? We had it all. We didn't have a synthetic fabric of existence, right? We were able to travel. We were able to experience. We were able to interact. We were able to do things without fear. Everything for today's generation and the generation before that, and even the millennials before that, has been built around a screen. And the screen creates a perceptual prison cell that locks all these souls and corrals them in to this construct. These kids are never going to fly anywhere. They're never going to travel. They're never going to really interact. They're all worried about whether they're boys or girls or men or women and busy cutting their dicks off or making badges out of their dicks or however you want to put it. Or like I said with that video, the government is now telling children that are sick, it's okay to pass away. And you know what? They're sending it to kids' tablets. As the ad, you know, the ad that comes up on the website, the ad scrolling on there, that's the ad. It's okay to pass away. Click here.
It was 15555 then in the time when, you said that.
Well, that says a lot right there. So I kind of get to the point where the indoctrination program has succeeded completely. And our job as alchemizers or alchemists is to help to unravel the dense emotional fabric that they have wrapped around themselves like a cocoon, like a spider in a cocoon. And in order to free their arms, because they're all stuck in the cocoon, they're all glued in the cocoon, they're all fucking the cocoon, you got to basically give them an opportunity. Oh, there you go. Speaking about Catherine, and she comes up on the thing screen right there.
Click it. So yeah, I think that's really good. So what we're going to do, I think we should wrap up at 2 hours.
Yeah.
So we've got like 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
3 minutes. So how can we? So yeah, what I was going to say is that so this is why I've been in a way reluctant to really do what we're doing here and actually share this, because it's like, well, there's another freaking video on YouTube, you know, whatever. Because I think we should share what we've done, but I think as long as you're encouraging people when you share, I think that's my, you know, I'm not a guru. I don't have answers. People have their own answers, but I am going to encourage people who watch these videos to say, look, please keep checking in on yourself. And, you know, I'm not responsible for you know, trying to harvest your attention through my YouTube channel.
I think the easiest way to do it, Ricky, is you don't put it on YouTube. You don't put it on Vimeo. You don't put it on any of the usual platforms, Rumble, or maybe Rumble or BitChute, because that's a different audience. You embed it as a video on your website, and you promote it as an individual destination. Remember what it's called. Your website is Divine Life Alchemy. So you put out a call, right? You put out a call. All the alchemists out there, men, women, and children. Here is a destination, a portal. Hey, have a look. See if it resonates.
Yeah. Sounds
Don't
good.
put it on YouTube. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's kind of killing it a bit, isn't it? Okay, so anything you want to say? Wrapping up?
No, I was just going to say that if you want to do this on a Sunday like this, for me, that it's the best time for me.
Yeah, because that's really good. I'm glad that as much as anything, this is for all of us, and it's a chance to actually also understand what are our needs, you know, on a deeper level. What do we actually need, and communicating that and listening to other people, because it's going to be, you know, where we can all share something that we're feeling or that we just deeply want to express. So that's a real chance for people to, because I think we need that, you know. So all right.
And just like I said, just say to Katie on my behalf, think of all the things that you got to experience before you hit the COVID wall. Because COVID changed the whole fucking world.
It did. Yeah, very true.
Right. And everything prior to that, we were able to find our bliss. Right. Even if it was just the two of you kind of like, you know, back and forth in the van. That's bliss. Are you ever going to do that again? Probably not. You know?
Well,
to just tell us that we have the opportunity to be truly grateful that the lives that we led before the COVID wall was amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But thank you so much for, you know, I had a good time. I enjoyed the conversation, the interaction, and you've got a good copy of everything. So that's great.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah, just want to say to life, to God, to whatever it is, beautiful Mother Earth, thank you for this opportunity. Please hear our prayer that we intend to evolve and do the right thing every day. And I open myself to abundance and opportunities to be of service to me and all life. Thank you.
So be it. Fantastic. Awesome, man.
All right.
All right. See you, buddy.
Bye for now. Cheers, man. Great.
Good night, mate.
Night.